Think about the most expensive thing you own right now. Maybe it's that SUV in the driveway, your high-end kitchen appliances, or that professional-grade workstation in your home office. Now, I want you to imagine a world where you stop paying a monthly fee, and those things, those physical objects you already paid thousands for, simply stop working. They don't break, they don't wear out, they just stop. Like someone flipped a kill switch from 1,000 miles away. Here's the kicker. That world isn't some sci-fi dystopia. It's actually the business model for 2026, and it's creating one of the strangest economic anomalies I've ever seen. Let's go to a dusty auction lot in the Midwest. There's a 40-year-old John Deere 440/40 tractor. It's rusty, it's loud, and it's purely mechanical. You'd think it's junk, right? Well, it just sold for over $60,000. That's about 150% of its original sticker price from the 80s. Meanwhile, a brand new $500,000 model is sitting idle nearby. Why? Because the old one is dumb. You can fix it with a wrench. You own it. But the new one? It's a rolling computer that requires a digital handshake from a corporate server just to change the oil. In 2026, old and simple has become the new ultimate luxury because it's the only thing you actually truly own. Let that land for a second. It's a fascinating shift in how we value assets. We're seeing a massive flight to legacy hardware, not because people are nostalgic, but because they're terrified of a new car smell that comes with a terms and conditions agreement. We're talking about a world where dumb is worth more than smart, because smart can be turned off. So here's where the story takes a turn. Why are the world's most sophisticated consumers suddenly treating a 1980s tractor like it's a bar of gold? To find the answer, we have to look at the invisible lines of code currently strangling your engine. Okay, let's talk about the real problem. Hardware as a service, or HaaS. It sounds efficient, right? Only pay for what you use. But look at the data. The software-defined vehicle market, what the industry calls SDVs, is now worth $470 billion. That's a 115% jump in just 3 years. We're talking about a transition where 60% of global car fleets are moving to cloud-dependent architectures. This isn't just about GPS updates anymore. It's about digital enclosure. It's an invisible fence built around the things you thought you bought. Here's the deal. When you buy a modern EV today, the hardware for the heated seats, the extra battery range, and the high-speed acceleration is already in the car. It's physically there. You've paid for the lithium, the copper, and the manufacturing. But it's locked behind a paywall. BMW tried this with heated seats, and while the backlash was huge, 75% of consumers said, no thanks, the industry didn't stop. They just got quieter about it. They shifted from optional extras to required licenses. You aren't buying property anymore. You're signing a temporary license agreement that can be revoked at any time. The math here is wild. The global subscription economy has surged by 81%, hitting nearly $900 billion. And for the people on the front lines, like farmers, this isn't just an inconvenience. It's a crisis. U.S. farmers are losing an estimated $4.2 billion every single year because of repair restrictions. When a sensor fails on a modern harvester, the farmer can't just swap the part. They need a software key. If the server is down or the manufacturer says no, that multi-million-dollar machine is just a very expensive paperweight. And this is the part nobody's talking about. If the hardware is already in the car and you've already paid for the manufacturing, where exactly is that extra subscription money going? It's not going into the product, it's going into the margin. Now, let's zoom out for a second and follow the money. This is where we see the most massive wealth transfer of our generation. In the old world, you bought a car, you drove it for 5 years, and you sold it. You recouped your equity. That used market value was the bedrock of middle-class wealth. But in 2026, that equity is being systematically vaporized. How? Through something called software obsolescence. If a manufacturer decides a 10-year-old car is no longer supported, they can stop the cloud updates. Suddenly, the infotainment dies, the battery management gets buggy, and the car's value drops off a cliff. Secondary markets are already pricing this in. We're seeing a 15% drop in residual value for hardware that hits its end-of-life software date. But it gets even sneakier. Some companies are now charging reactivation fees. Imagine you buy a used car that has all the premium features. The previous owner paid for them, but the moment the title transfers, the company remotely bricks those features and tells you, the new owner, that you have to pay $5,000 to turn them back on. That's a tax on the secondhand market. It's a way for corporations to capture the residual value that used to belong to you. The numbers blew me away when I first saw them. We are looking at a total $2.4 trillion annual wealth transfer from consumer equity to corporate recurring service margins. Look at Apple's services division. It's running at 75% gross margins. Compare that to 35% for hardware. Every company on Earth wants that 75% margin, and the only way to get it is to make sure you never actually finish paying for the things you own. This is the kill switch economy. It's efficient for the balance sheet, but it's devastating for your personal net worth. Is this just the price of progress? Or are we repeating one of the darkest chapters in economic history? To understand what's happening today, we actually have to go back to the 18th century. Between 1773 and 1845, the British government passed the Enclosure Acts. They took common land that everyone used to hunt and farm, and they fenced it off. They turned it into private property. It forced independent peasants off the land and into factories. Today, we're seeing digital enclosure. Instead of fences, they're using code. Instead of land, they're privatizing the common functionality of the hardware you already bought. The similarity index here is 88%. It's the same play, just with different tools. And this has sparked a massive war between two very different visions of the future. On one side, you have people like Microsoft's Satya Nadella. His argument? Everything as a service is great for you. It lowers the barrier to entry. You don't have to pay $50,000 upfront for a high-end system. You just pay a small monthly fee. It keeps your hardware up to date with the latest cloud AI. It's the subscription for everything model, and from a pure efficiency standpoint, he's not entirely wrong. It scales beautifully. But then you have the bears. People like activist Cory Doctorow and right-to-repair advocate Louis Rosman. They call this subscription serfdom. Rosman's point is simple. If you can't repair it, you don't own it. You're just a tenant in a device you paid full price for. He argues this is the largest theft of consumer equity in human history, and the battle lines are being drawn right now. We have over 30 US states pushing for right-to-repair legislation. Colorado and Minnesota have already passed landmark bills. But for you at home, the kill switch is already live. Your fridge might be working today, but does it belong to you, or is it just on loan from a server in Silicon Valley? So where does this leave your bank account in 2026? Let's look at the average household grocery list. It's not just Netflix and Spotify anymore. It's your front door lock, your smart thermostat, your air purifier, and your car's navigation. The average US household is now spending $219 every single month just on hardware-linked subscriptions. That's nearly $2,700 a year for things that used to be buy once, use forever. It's a permanent squeeze on your discretionary income. You're paying forever for a life you used to own. But there is a counter-movement growing. It's called DePIN, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure. It's a $50 billion market that's exploded by 2,500% in 3 years. These are people building independent networks for power, internet, and data that can't be switched off by a single CEO. We're also seeing the rise of legacy tech communities, people deliberately buying older, mechanical cars and appliances as a form of financial sovereignty. They're opting out of the smart grid to keep their equity intact. At the end of the day, we're at a crossroads. We can have a world of total efficiency where everything is a service and you own nothing, or we can reclaim the right to property. But you have to decide where your line is. Think about that next time your car asks for a software update just to turn on the AC. The question is no longer what you can afford to buy, but how many keys you're willing to rent for a life you used to own. I'm curious, which key are you willing to give up first? Thanks for sticking with me on this one. Let's see how the math plays out tomorrow.